Inspector General of Police Joseph Boinett, welcome to NTV. And we've just watched together those three items, and it doesn't look like a very proud night for the police. Do you have any regrets?
Thank you very much, Linus, for inviting me this evening. In the first instance, I want to let you know that I have a bit of a cold, so my sound may not be as good as it should always be. But having said that, yes, I've watched all those three clips. But I think it is important to understand all of these things in context. Why did we get there in the first instance? So we should not be judged on the basis of a 3 seconds clip, not knowing how did we get there in the first instance. And the truth is, on that material day...
Before we go to an explanation, do you have any regrets about what you've just seen? You've heard from the parents themselves, and they're watching you. They'll be asking, are you a parent? There was one that specifically said, suppose you had your own children in the university.
Yes, I'm a parent. I'm a parent. I have kids in university. Two are finished, two are still in university. But I'm insisting that we must understand these things in context, because you cannot condemn the police on the basis of a 3 seconds clip. How did we get there in the first instance? Number two, how did the police respond? Number three, was any law broken or not? But we have to revert back from the first instance. How did we get there in the first instance?
And to allow us to do that, the context you're talking about, let's have the context right here, and we're going to see those clips, particularly from the University of Nairobi. Let's just watch this. These are the pictures, Inspector General Boinett. What is the context?
The context is there was a very serious crime committed along State House Road on the lower part in the neighborhood of Mamlaka and the halls of residence of the university. And there was also serious blockage of traffic along Uhuru Highway and Wayaki Way. And we were, as required by the law, expected to move very, very fast and restore normalcy. Now, number two, if you allow me,
let's go by stage by stage. You say roads were blocked.
Yes.
But what we are seeing here, the pictures you're watching, are policemen beating students in halls of residence. And in fact, one of the clips there does show students lying on the floor of the architectural department of the University of Nairobi.
No, not allowed.
That is far from the road.
The police condemned and heard.
That is far from the road.
Listen to me so that I can explain how we got there. I said the roads were blocked, motors were being stoned, and I have pictures also that I can avail if you wish, of a border person hit with a big stone on the head, almost killed. And we also got information that there were rogues who were masquerading as university students who had gotten into the halls of residence. Now, how we got into the halls of residence and sadly into some classrooms was upon the invitation of the university itself, by the security department, as well as by higher up in the university, that we have a serious situation in part of the campus, and you need to help us sort it out.
And as police and as Inspector General, the only way you'll prove what you're saying is by producing the suspects and taking them to court. And do you have any?
I'm getting to that. And I said we were invited by the university administration and the security department that they have a situation in the university. So we got there and calmed down the situation, stopped the stone throwing, and we needed to take robust action in getting to know who was a crook and who was not.
I would like to know what you're referring to, calming down the situation. What we are seeing is policemen frog marching students, making them to lie on the floor. Some are being beaten. That doesn't look to me like calming down a situation.
That was part of calming down the situation, because the situation was calmed and stone throwing stopped. And number two, and which in my view is extremely important, yes, we have the constitutionally granted freedoms and rights. But these rights and freedoms come with responsibility. You cannot enjoy these rights and freedoms to protest or picket by throwing stones and molesting other people. It's not right at all.
IG, you spoke of context, and I would like you to stick to the context. The context we're discussing right now is the images we are seeing from the halls of residence outside the classrooms, as you can see over there. What happened after that? Do you have anybody who has been arrested?
I was coming to that one. When we're having stabilized the situation, we are now at the stage of investigating to know who did what. And if, on the part of ourselves, some of our officers overstep the line that is required under our disciplinary code, and in the rules, even under the law that enable us to calm down those kind of situations, we will certainly take action. And only even on the part of the students, because we are reviewing lots of footage, we will certainly be taking action.
But footage you are reviewing, you cannot admit liability on what you are seeing already. We've seen students being beaten up by policemen. What is there to review? I have said,
if following investigations by our Internal Affairs Unit and IPOA and even the Kenya Human Rights Commission, if it turns out that some of our officers overstep the lines, we'll certainly take action.
Give us a sense of what such investigations really involve, because from the plain eye, a common sense perspective, this is brutality. You're getting students out of classes, out of the hostels and halls of residence, and beating them up, stepping on them, stamping on them. What is there to investigate?
No, in this instance, we have to get a sense of balance. How did we get there in the first instance? How would you feel if you were that motorist with a huge stone hurled at your windscreen? Almost getting yourself killed. Would you want us to sit back and say, no, we can't get into the halls of residence?
As Police Inspector General, one would expect then that you'll say, here are the suspects. We caught them stoning vehicles, and we are producing them in court. I've asked you the third time tonight, where are your suspects?
We will get them after reviewing the footage.
So the beatings were in vain. Those were not suspects. These were innocent students.
The question is, how did we get there in the first instance? If I can get answers to that question, how did we get there in the first instance? Because I insist, we must enjoy our rights and freedoms responsibly.
But you have said, and in fact the State House spokesperson did say also, that rogue elements went back to the halls of residence. We are seeing your men, we are seeing your policemen beating up students, and out of the people they beat, they can't produce one of them as a suspect.
I have told you, Linus, that we will certainly get people who did that.
What is the right thing that police ought to do when things like this happen? Isn't it arresting the suspects and taking them to court?
It depends on the circumstances of the situation. You are faced with people hurling all manner of projectiles at you. Do you plead with them?
But the same people, I'm asking you again, Inspector General, why don't you take them to court?
We will take people to court.
But they're nursing injuries. They have not been taken to a police station.
You will be surprised from the university authorities themselves, from administration and security. Nobody has gone to the university dispensaries to seek medical treatment. Nobody has gone to the central police station to report. But there are channels to complain, because our Internal Affairs Unit has moved in to investigate if there were breaches of procedure. IPOA is investigating the same matter, as well as the Kenya National Human Rights Commission.
Now that you say that they have not gone to complain, we have covered this. It's been public knowledge in the media, and I just want us to play a clip of the victims of the university raid by the police. Here they are.
In Mamlaka B, room 26. We were just relaxing there with my friend. Then the GSU came and broke into our room, and they started beating us. For me, they beat me here at the left hand, at the right hand, and also here at the back, around the spinal cord. And then because I was unable to walk at that moment, then the school ambulance came and took me to Kenyatta National Hospital, where I was treated and was discharged today in the morning at around 2 a.m.
The policeman was spraying the poisonous water inside the students' rooms and hostels, you see, because some students, they were not even participating in the peaceful demonstration.
Inspector General, is this reporting not sufficient? That these are the victims, these are the students that were beaten?
I would invite them to avail themselves to our investigating agencies, either our own Internal Affairs Unit or IPOA.
You started by saying they stoned vehicles, they stoned motorists, including a border cyclist that you say was nearly killed. They're here talking, they have injuries, but they were not arrested. I don't get the separation. What suspects are you looking for, if these are not the suspects?
And unfortunately, you are mixing things up. You are saying there are motorists who are stoned, and I would wish to, if you allow, take this opportunity to ask them to report to the Central Police Station so that we can take up that matter. It is not right at all to ventilate whatever grievances you may have or to express any point of view by stoning other people on the highway. It's not right at all.
So the totality of your argument and answer to this question, Inspector General, is you have absolutely no regrets about what we've seen?
I'm a stickler for procedure and doing the thing the right way. I'm not saying everything was done the right way on that day. And that's why you've deployed our own internal affairs unit to investigate if there were transgressions against our own procedures. And as well as IPOA is on it again as well to investigate that matter. And if, on our part, if we find officers who will have crossed the line, we'll certainly take action against them.
Now, what I'm hearing is absolute denial, and you have no regrets. That's my understanding, right?
The problem of our society is sometimes some of us take a very hypocritical line, that we scream at things and we condone other things, we allow other things to pass. So we say it's fine to stone motorists when you're expressing a political or whatever opinion.
So we've seen clips of your men beating up students. Do you have any regrets? Are you sorry about what you've seen?
I have said if anybody cross the line, they will be held to account.
Let's go to, and sticking to police brutality, to much younger victims of the kind of behavior we have seen here. And not long ago, a 6-month-old baby, Samantha Pendo, was killed as part of an operation to quell post-election demonstrations in Kisumu. What do you have to say about the death of baby Pendo?
Very regrettable, but it's a matter that we are investigating, and I'm certain we'll get to the bottom of that matter.
It's been more than a month. How deep are you in this getting to the bottom of this matter? The
latest brief I got from this year is that there was a bit of a delay, actually a lot of delay, not from our part, but very sadly and understandably so on the part of the parents, because they were traumatized and could not come forward to record statements, which we have done in a few days ago. So the process is ongoing, and we'll get to the bottom of that matter.
6 months old, killed by anti-riot police. How does that make you feel?
I don't think, well, but as a human being, I don't believe any sane police officer would hit a 6-month-old baby as it is put out in the public. But let the investigators get to the
There are facts to that incident, Inspector General, and I think it will be important.
I don't have those facts.
It will be important to stick to the facts on this matter. Policemen went to the home of the parents of this child, and one of them, using a baton, struck the mother who was carrying a baby on the back.
I don't have those facts. I'll wait for the investigators to
You
find.
Do have these facts,
I don't.
Inspector General.
I don't. If I had, I'll tell you. Why should I hide?
So what are you investigating?
The circumstances under which, as required by the law, that death occurred.
Do you accept that this also is a very dark illustration of police brutality?
I don't understand what you mean by police brutality.
When a baby, 6 months old, dies because it's been struck by the baton of an anti-riot police, that is brutality, isn't it?
I mean, let's be serious. What is the purpose of the police in a civilized and organized society like ours? To enforce the law. And quite often, when we enforce the law, those who
How is the death of a 6-month-old part of enforcement of law?
This is a point. This is a point. People, when we're enforcing the law, not everybody is happy with it. And when we use the tools that are allowed by law for us to use, certain things may happen. Certain very regrettable things can happen. Like,
so explain to us the tools that the police are allowed to use. Tell us, just give us an understanding of how and why a 6-month-old baby can die because of enforcement of law.
I have said the circumstances are things that we will want to understand from the investigation. But right at the outset, I have said it is regrettable. It's very painful to do such a
Let's leave Samantha Pendo aside. Now let's talk of Stephanie Mora. Do you remember Stephanie Mora?
Yes, I do.
How far is that matter? Has the policeman who fired the shot that killed her been arraigned?
We have two versions of the same circumstances. My officers tell me they were running after an armed fellow who was hiding in a crowd, who fired that shot that hit that baby. But folks around that locality say it was a policeman. So that's a matter that we're investigating to get to know, was it one of us or was it a criminal?
Inspector General, this child was not in a crowd. She was playing on the rooftop.
No, you didn't
of a
get
building.
me right. I said my officers have reported to us that they were running after someone who was armed in a crowd that was part of the demonstrators. And then a shot rang out, hit the baby on the balcony. I didn't say that the girl, unfortunately, passed on, and we really regretted, was not part of the demonstrators. She was in the balcony.
And so what are you saying about this? The police didn't do it?
I can't say it is either a police officer or a criminal. I don't have the facts now. But it's a matter that we are investigating.
We've tackled three issues. Brutality in the University of Nairobi. We've spoken of Samantha Pendo, 6 months old, dead. Spoken of Stephanie Mura, 9 years old, class 4, dead. In all these three, you're saying you don't have any facts. You are saying you're still investigating. You're not sounding very accountable, Inspector General.
What makes you make that conclusion?
Some of these cases are very old. You ought to be having the answers. Don't you have the answers to some of these cases?
You know, these things are not, you don't go and pick like picking fruits from a tree. It has to be meticulous and done in the right way, so that when you pin down someone, you have the facts and the evidence to pin down that person. For instance, we certainly cannot be held to account for the delay in the investigation of that sad incident in Kisumu, because the parents were traumatized and they were not in a position to record statement with the police. We could not go and tell them, you must do it now.
But the totality of this is, Inspector General, you denying that there is police brutality in the service.
Let me tell you, my dear friend Linus, you know, we police, and I've always insisted to a number of colleagues in other fora, that we are policing a Kenyan society, as it is. And you know the way some of us behave.
Now, let's talk about those that really don't even have a choice in behavior. And I'm talking of cows in Laikipia. Why would policemen shoot cows?
Policemen have not shot cows. Policemen have responded to fire coming from gunmen hiding amongst animals. What do? You keep quiet and say, I can't shoot back because I can see a cow or a goat? You can't certainly do that. And you have a responsibility to protect the innocent, to protect innocent owners of property whose land has been invaded by people who don't care about the law.
I must say this is a startling claim, Inspector General, that people are firing from a herd of cows.
Go ask those folks there. They will tell you the truth.
Right. I want us to move to the next issue.
If you allow Linus, that I can clarify in a jiffy about that matter.
The cows?
About the cows.
Okay.
It's not that it is in every instance that people are firing from amongst animals, but in every instance where there's been a fatality, including cows, sadly, and as a pastoralist, I get pain when I see a cow killed in those kind of circumstances. But it is equally wrong for a herder to hide amongst livestock and begin firing at the police. And we have lost quite a number of police officers in those circumstances.
Now, Inspector, actually, before I just leave that issue of brutality, maybe coming to the history of the police, and there is this element of collective punishment that finds its roots in colonial rule, where policemen would come to villages where suspected Mau are hiding and punish everybody. It's a habit that the policemen seem not to drop, despite the Constitution of Kenya, despite Chapter 4 of the Constitution.
No, we don't apply collective punishment. It is individual responsibility in accordance with the law.
You will force me to go back to the tape again of the University of Nairobi. Did that look like individual responsibility when you force students some of them carrying books, some of them who are in the library, some who are in the halls of residence, to one place and beat them up. That's collective punishment, isn't it?
I said, if someone breached our own disciplinary record and our own procedures of dealing with violent situations, that officer will certainly be held to account.
You know,
because we do not condone collective punishment as you have described.
Let me tell you, the interpretation by some Kenyans, a good section of Kenyans, when you say we are investigating, is you're not going to do anything about it.
No, that's not true. That's not true at all.
Many would be startled that you actually denying how illustrated the video clips are.
No, I insist we must get everything in totality. You cannot pass judgment against a whole National Police Service.
So what you've seen so far,
of a few seconds,
with what you've seen so
clips.
far, IG, you find nothing wrong.
I'm saying, I'm not saying I'm not finding anything wrong. I've said there is certainly something wrong, but we have to see everything in totality, in the entire context. How did we start? How did we get there? And how did it end? So that when you pass judgment, either against a police officer or a student or any other person for that matter, you're not punishing someone for no reason at all.
Let's now hear your views, Inspector General, about demonstrations and the right to demonstrate. And what we've seen, especially around every election, is the identification of so-called hotspots. And there, for this election, there was Kisumu, there was Mathare, there was Kibera, there was Mombasa. Basically, traditional strongholds of opposition politics. When your accusers say the police are partisan, and then list the hotspots as all being opposition strongholds, don't they have a point?
They don't have a point at all. They don't, and I'll give you the reason why. When we do a mapping of the country in preparation for an event, for instance, we began preparing for the 8th of August elections way back in 2016, and we calibrated our coverage and responses to whatever situations that may occur as we went by, based on a number of considerations. None of it includes typifying a particular city or a locality on the basis of either the residents who live there or their political orientation. None at all.
How about your response? Because the perception, and in fact, practice is in these areas that you call hotspots, the response is always forceful, always swift. But when it comes to areas where they are perceived to be pro-government areas, the force is not the same.
No, that typification is not right, because we, as I said, calibrate our responses depending on what we've already mapped. So in the way we respond depends on the kind of circumstances that are arraigned against us. So if people are civil, we will be civil. But if people are engaged in violence, destroying property, harming other people, what do you expect us to do? Fold our arms? No way.
And so you will be civil. And indeed, the police were quite civil when the Supreme Court nullified the presidential election. We didn't have any incidents.
Weren't we civil?
How do you explain?
Were the people very civil?
The people were. And probably they've always been.
We were equally very civil.
Don't you think then that your critics will say some of the violence, a lot of times, is caused by the police, could actually be right?
No, that's a false judgment. It's not right at all.
We didn't have violence after...
We don't cause violence. We respond to violent incidences. And very sadly, in the process of pacifying this kind of situations, a lot of officers sustain injuries. It's not a very pleasant job to do. It's not a pleasant job to do, but it's a responsibility that we have sworn and taken oath to do, and to do to the very best of our ability.
So what do you attribute the fact that we had a lot of peace on the 1st of September? There was no violence when the Supreme Court nullified the election.
Of course, it is plain for everybody to see. There was no violence, and there was no reason for us to use any measure of force at all. There was no reason at all.
Right.
And I'll give you another example as well. The other day when there was a demonstration in Kisumu, people assembled, they marched, they were addressed by the governor, and they dispersed peacefully. There was no reason at all to waste police resources in doing things that we need not do. So what I'm saying is we calibrate our responses all the time depending on the situation on the other side.
Which other side?
If people, for instance, as they enjoy their constitutionally granted freedoms and rights, they assemble, not having notified the police, picket, demonstrate, and are peaceable, are not armed, what's the business of dispersing them? We will not disperse anybody.
Right, and we've seen in the politics that have come after the nullification of the presidential election that there will be demonstrations starting tomorrow. There was one last week which was dispersed. And I just want us to play a clip of the Nairobi businessmen press conference today so that we can continue this conversation. Here it is.
And we say that Nairobi business community has now opened its tentacles in all areas of our interest. You have Moranga business community now in place. You have Nakuru business community. You have Laikipia business community. And all of us are for one thing: peace, peace, peace. We are aware that tomorrow NASA are going to do their usual protests. Again, we tell them, tutakuwa huko, huko, huko. We will be there to protect our interests, to protect our business, to protect our children, to protect our women, to protect our fathers, and above all, to protect our future.
What do you make of this, Inspector General?
Well, these are Kenyans who are freely, pardon me my call, freely expressing their views, and that they will be there. I really don't know, as of now, what they plan to do. So it depends on how they will come. If they are assembled peaceably and unarmed, so be it. But if they engage in any form of violence, we will be there to do our job.
Will you submit to viewers that, in your assessment, these are real Nairobi businessmen?
How does a Nairobi businessman look like? They come in all shapes and stripes. I don't know them. So whether they are businessmen or not, it's not for me to answer yes or no.
Now, there are accusations and perceptions that you, the police, do have a close working relationship when it comes to some of these political events with the outlawed Mungiki group.
That's an absolute lie. We are actually looking for them. If you see any one of them, tell me. How can I work with people I'm looking for? I'll repeat, you see any one of them, let me know. And they'll know what is in store for them.
Right, let's play the next clip on the events that we've been witnessing the last few days, and that is your move, or the move of the Ministry of Interior to withdraw security for opposition leaders. And here is an explanation from the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Interior, that is Dr. Matiang'i.
Hata ukiwa kiongozi wa aina gani, lazima sisi sote tutii sheria. Huwezi kutuambia eti sasa unataka tukupee askari 20 wakupeleke uende kutoa mtu mwingine kwa kazi ambaye anashikilia kazi kulingana na sheria, na wewe mwenyewe unajua ile sheria tuko nayo. Kama unahitaji mtu amefanya makosa, tuko na koti, tuko na njia nyingine ya kupiga ripoti kwa polisi na mambo kama hayo.
What exactly explains the withdrawal of security for former Prime Minister Raila and former Vice President Kalonzo?
Security has not been withdrawn. They have security.
Is what the CS saying they are false?
Did he say that the security has been withdrawn from them?
Just confirm, did this happen or not? Do they have their policemen?
Yes, they do. They are policemen.
How many?
I can't tell you that. That's an operational matter.
Was that downsized?
Let me clarify one thing.
Yes.
The action we took, which I took myself, was not targeting anybody. We are at a period where we have a new parliament in place. Several of them lost seats. And where the new MPs were sworn in, so we had a big lot of them that lost out, as I said, when we wanted to get security from them, plus other personalities who enjoy state security. So we wanted to rationalize deployment of officers. And that has been done. If it affected someone and they feel aggrieved.
So explain with a little more clarity what exactly transpired, because it's getting us a bit confused when you say security has not been withdrawn, when your earlier statement was, and even right now you're talking of rationalization. What exactly has happened?
Rationalization, if I can explain, was in terms of numbers. But as to how many who has, I can't tell you that, as I said.
So what have you done exactly? Have you cut down the numbers?
Rationalized numbers to be in consonance with the threat level.
This is likely, and it's been actually interpreted as a political blow.
I'm not a politician, so I can't make political explanations to anything.
Are you suggesting you're non-partisan
Of
as
course,
a police
I am.
service?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Right. Talking of non-partisanship, the Supreme Court did find that there were illegalities and irregularities that were committed in the election of August 8th. And for that, the presidential election was nullified. In places where police are non-partisan, it would be expected that some of the IEBC officials, and I mean senior officials, not some presiding officer from a distant polling station, would be held to account by the police, would be investigated and even possibly arraigned in court. Is this something Kenyans should expect from the police?
Well, I can't tell you who will finally end up in court, but as a matter of fact, and that's the truth, is that matter was referred to the DPP, who was written to us, asking me and the ESCC to investigate that matter and revert back to him as soon as possible. And that's a matter that is live as we speak.
How is that going?
I don't know. I have to get it from the investigators.
Right. Inspector General, let's come as we approach the conclusion to talk about hate speech. And I would like to play a clip. The last time we sat here with you, you promised to carry out some, as you have today, carry out some more investigations, authentication, and then come back to us. Let's play this clip and see and hear from you whether you've done this.
Number 2, 15, January 16, وعبد registration of voters. Nataka wewe upange hawa vijana 5 kwa kila polling station. Matatu au wanadak ina grenade. Wanasema kama unataka MP lazima utumie kura ya kaunti. Wanataka vijana 5 asubuhi, jioni na kunao mtatoa. Hata mkiona hiyo gari pita ambia huyo OCPD akuja waleteni askari ilika facility. Tunaenda kukana county commander OCPD na mtu wa CID na watu juani na mitaambia hawa hata huyu kama commissioner mkamba sasa mwambia wewe jaribu wana wa mbali mkamba hapo Kemarin kermani, hadin nak untuk so detail. Jangan apa orang. Harus ada ahli kebenaran. Bilkin Arab, mujibannya word by word. Listen, every police station, come on, state not berjalan.
This was pre-election, Inspector General, and we sat here with you.
Sure.
You had promised some action to authenticate that tape. Have you?
Yes, we got footage, that audio clip investigated, and it wasn't easy to know it was Mr. A or Mr. Z.
So we do not know who was speaking there?
Officers could not know who was speaking there.
How hard is it to know who was speaking there, Inspector General?
It's as hard as you know, if you hear an audio clip and you don't see the face, you certainly can't say it is Mr. B or Mr. Y.
On hate speech, Inspector General, you are seen as a political force that only acts on political instruction.
There's an lie.
If you wanted to know who that was, you would have known who it was.
On the basis of an audio clip? On the basis of an audio clip?
Yes.
Unless you use the supernatural powers, it's not really very easy.
No, it doesn't require supernatural powers. It requires trained investigative police who we believe you have.
Yes, we do. And we have some of the best in the region, as a matter of fact.
And they can't tell who that is.
Up to this point in time, it's not easy to know who that person was.
What would you tell
You may have
viewers?
suspects whose style of speaking sounds like that one, but you cannot pin down that person and say, this is you.
What would you tell viewers who think that's a politically correct answer from you, IG?
Well, those are their views.
Let's come to Johnson Muthama and Moses Kuria. They were arrested just at the same time, but long after they made the remarks they made for which they were arrested. What is this curious habit of balancing, where you can only arrest one if the other side also have an equal suspect?
It is not true there is any form of balancing at all. We investigate crimes, arrest people, and charge them before court. And I would want to draw a distinction between this instance and the previous one that you alluded to, which you played on the screen. This one, we had video footage. The other one was audio. And since these matters are in court, I think it's not right to discuss here.
So it's impossible, just put it there, out there for the public to know, it's impossible to know a suspect from an audio clip.
I'm not saying it's impossible. It's not as easy as using a video clip.
So is it a closed matter, by the way?
No,
so
it's not closed. We are still looking into it.
Political instructions and hate speech. Why does it take long for police to act?
Give me an example.
I'll give the example of the example of the Embakasi MP who was arrested. But then, on a second thought by the police, a second charge was brought of an offense that was committed in August.
Well, you may not know the circumstances under which investigators do operate in many of these instances, because you have to be meticulous in your work, put up the file, and you see, and unlike in the past, where we would arrest people and take them to court to be prosecuted by one of the prosecutors, that was a different arrangement. Now we have lawyers working with the DPP who are meticulous in their work and ensure that files that are ready to be presented before court have solid evidence. So we take time to ensure that we have a realistic possibility of having someone convicted on the basis of evidence that we have. So that's why sometimes some of these things take a bit of time. Sometimes we are very swift on the basis of what we have seen.
Depending on the politics, you can be very swift.
Absolutely none at all. None at all. Far from the truth.
Right. In conclusion, Inspector General, I haven't received a lot of answers from you tonight. And let's try this again. The murder of Chris Msando, the IT manager at IEBC. Any progress?
Yeah, quite commendable progress has been made. A number of people have been arrested. And a lot of work is still continuing, but a number of people are still being sought. I think that's how much I can say at this point in time on that matter. Still a very live case, and the officers are still at it. And we picked on the best to deal with this matter.
Maybe, Inspector General, in conclusion, I will allow you to speak to us a bit about the independence of your office. It is constitutionally an independent, one of the independent offices. But are you convinced the police do carry out their duties like an independent body ought to?
Yes, I am convinced 100%. I never receive instructions from anybody to do A or B or C. We do everything in strict conformity with the law. And permit me to say one other thing, as you said in closing, just to appeal to our people. Let's avail ourselves of the freedoms and the rights allowed to us by the Constitution, but let's do so responsibly. Let's do so with some decorum, because it doesn't make sense.
They're watching you, and they may also say that can the police respect their enjoyment of those rights?
Yes, we do, and you alluded to a number of instances, including on 1st of September. Where people enjoy themselves in their own way for that length of time, and we had no reason to take any action. People were enjoying themselves, and there was no law broken. Nobody was harmed. I mean, insofar as that crowd was concerned.
Inspector General,
in the evening, they dispersed peacefully, as you saw for yourself.
Inspector General Joseph Boinett. And indeed, talking of time, we are pressed for time here on NTV. The bulletin does continue now with Gladys Gatancha, and we say thank you to Inspector General of Police Joseph Boinett for being with us tonight. Over to